Almost any HR executive could tell you how to onboard an average employee, but how do you onboard a new CEO? In this short video, part of our Champions of Responsible Business video series, Bill Doucette, Vice President of HR at NES, tells us the process he uses to bring on the top executive.
Yeah, I mean, the experience that's sort of interesting is that with our company, NES, we had gone through quite a turmoil as far as CEOs were concerned. We had basically 4 different leaders in a 3-year period of time. So that in a very short period of time. And so for me, that was probably the biggest lessons that I learned was how do you adjust for these different leadership styles. And for me, the biggest thing, and I think Andy, our current CEO, would probably agree with this, is that the trust building initially is really, really important. I mean, nothing's going to happen between the HR person and the CEO if there's not a baseline of trust. And that's usually how it starts to work. And there's got to be some honesty. I mean, I can remember my first conversation with Andy and other CEOs is always, listen, if I'm not the right person for the role, please tell me. We don't have to play games. We just need to understand because you need somebody that fits that role for you, and that's going to be that confident, that person that's going to give you good advice. So I always start out that way because then, it's sort of there's no, agendas. There's no misunderstanding about why you're there. So the first thing is really just to develop the trust. You do that through relationship building, doing other things outside of work, and understanding each other. So that's the first thing. The second thing is you really have to adjust to the CEO to some degree because you're used to the person before, and now you have this new person coming in. And I will tell you that every CEO, I often look at them and say, what the heck are they thinking about? Why are they asking us to do these things? And you have to realize that you have to adjust not only what you do, but you have to adjust your ears a little bit because CEOs do have a different vision for the company. That's why they were brought into the organization. So you have to do them a favor and understand a little bit where they're coming from. Ask more questions. Why are you thinking the way that you're thinking so that you then are a better advocate when you go out into the organization to sort of push that. The other thing, third thing, is really assessing talent. When the new person comes in, that's the biggest challenge. Who is this person's team going to be? Basically the people in the organization typically. They don't in many cases. And so you have to be the person to sort of help them understand, honestly, where this might work, where it might not work, particularly related to the CEO's own style. Because they're different. They may not have selected the people that are currently in the team. And we're doing all of ourselves disfavors if we don't try to match it up the way best works for the CEO and that leadership team. And then the final thing is balance. I think as a HR professional and reporting to the CEO, you have to be the person that provides some balance to what's going on in the organization. We're charged with generally the people side of the organization. That's where your expertise should be and lie. But you also have to be in tune enough with the business to sort of balance out, crazy ideas that come up at the table that don't make sense for the organization, and maybe there's a people aspect to it, but you have to have that balance where you have to be comfortable to raise your hand and say, that's just not going to work, or that's not going to work, but here's an idea I think we can adjust it to make it work. Because I think some HR executives probably fail a lot because they just have one view of the world, that it's just the people side of it, and that's what I'm going to protect, when oftentimes it's not that defined. You have to kind of work on both ends. So if you do those 4 things, I think typically you're going to have a pretty good start with that CEO.